welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Quite recently, we had some horrible news coming out of Monrovia. There were 4 deaths in a span of 8 days of people connected to auditing in Liberia, 1 from the IAA and 3 from the LRA. This was so alarming, and we are scared. For me personally, I'm scared that there could be deaths that have suspicion under mysterious circumstances. So everyone, everywhere, we've been talking about these deaths, these crimes, I will call them, or murders. So tonight we have decided to talk about what I personally call murders in Monrovia. And there's a brainstorming session. We have invited a cross-section of Liberians from various political and professional backgrounds to discuss or brainstorm about these murders and what we can do as a people. So welcome. All across the globe, we have joining us to discuss murders in Monrovia, Ms. Hawa Mesga, who's joining us for the first time. Hawa, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Hawa is coming from the social work and advocate background. She's very popular on Facebook, on social media, advocating for women issues ranging from rapes and other crimes against women and children. We also have joining us from Canada, Canada, Mr. Francis J. Hina. Mr. Hina, welcome to Focus on Liberia. Mr. Hina is from the local government side, and he's joining us from Canada. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be with all of you here today, especially seeing these faces, Kaikong and Professor Saulo and the councilman. Thank you. Always bring us together. And I think you are right. This is a very important issue that we need to discuss.
Thank you. We also want to welcome Councilman Winfred Russell from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Councilman Russell, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
As always, thanks, Dennis. It's great to be here and great to be a part of this the discourse and with all of the great intellectual folks you have here. I'm looking forward to a pretty healthy, lively conversation. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. We want to also welcome Mr. Gakon Moe. He's joining us from Chicago. Gakon is the co-founder of the Young Innovative Young Fellows in Liberia, right here, Liberians in the U.S. Mr. Gakon Moe, and he was one of the youth leaders in EULA. Gakon did not support me in the EULA election. I want to mention that. Gakon, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Jai. It's Young Innovative Leaders of Liberia. And I did support whoever was going to bring transformation and change to EULA.
So I wasn't. All right, welcome, Mr. Moe. Last but not the least is someone in education. He has his first background from the former Soviet Union, where he was trained as an engineer. Right now he's in education. This is our full-time educator, Mr. Isaac Zawlo. Isaac C. Lakbo Zawlo. Isaac, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Dennis, thank you. Thank you for having me. And quickly, as we begin this very important discussion, I want to begin by sending out my condolences to the families of those who lost their lives over the last couple of days in Liberia under very mysterious circumstances. I pray for the souls of those individuals that it is resting in perfect peace. Thank you.
Thank you. And as you can see from the panel, we have all gentlemen and just one lady. So Focus on Liberia was taken to task about this, and we want to make this clarification. We've invited, when we decided to talk about this, we sent out invitation to more people. And of those people, we have like 4 ladies that were invited. Only 1 consented. The other people have very genuine excuses for not being here tonight. So it was not planned to have just 1 female and 4 gentlemen. We planned to have equal representation of both gender, but it happened this way. But someone told me, Hawa, can play. Hawa is more than a woman, so she's both. So don't look at Hawa and think that she's the only female here. So I wanted to put that out because we got criticized for that. but it was never intentional. We invited more people, but due to some scheduling conflicts and other issues, they were not able to be here. But we found it very important that we discuss this very, very important issue we call murders in Monrovia. So we all heard the news and what happened in Monrovia, we got it, and there were conflicting reports. So we'll go around the room, just a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind, anything that I left out. And in addition, just tell us your first reaction when you got the news that the 4th person has died under mysterious circumstances in Monrovia. And all those deaths are people, they are either auditors or working in some auditing role. So let's go around the room and start with Mr. Gakon Moed. Your first thought and something about yourself.
Again, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for allowing me to share your platform with all these distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Well, the issue of Liberia, since the George Weah took over, the situation have reminded me of then Charles Taylor, when top government officials, key officials were disappearing in Liberia. I think the issue of deaths, relating to either the auditing and that of the central bank when the issue of the 25 or 16 billion got missing, these are serious things that needs to be investigated thoroughly. And the issue of security in Liberia we need to invest more in security, because when you have key people in each department that are being either, killed or accident is taking place out of nowhere, it sent a signal to international investors and people who wants to bring about development in Liberia. So I think the issue of these recent deaths, they need to be taken seriously. Our President George Weah and his leaders need to seriously investigate to see who murdered those people, or whether they died due to an accident, as it was reported by the police or the journalists. So we're looking forward to a fruitful discussion tonight to see how we can bring about some solutions or recommend some solutions to the government.
Mr. Zawlo, your first reaction.
Well, I would say shock, concern. The news is disturbing, and the way it spread, the news about the death of these people has been spreading, it has really, really attracted my attention. And I've gone behind the scenes to make sure I'm fully informed about the situation. But it's disturbing. Not just disturbing because allegedly the people who have passed away are auditors. We're going to get into that, but it is indeed disturbing for such a thing to be happening. And as we go on, we will articulate what we know and what we think is being done to make sure that the facts are unraveled and Liberian people can be in peace. But one message I would like to send in the beginning to the public: I think every Liberian living in Liberia is free to go about their lives. There is no threat, absolutely no threat to the general public. The country is safe. It's the safest Liberia has ever been since its history, since the establishment of our country. Our security forces are prepared, trained, and they are very vigilant and making sure that we'll leave no stone unturned in ensuring the safety of every Liberian. So let me assure the public of that, first of all. Thank you.
Thank you. In what capacity are you speaking, Mr. Zawlo, before I move on to Hawa?
I'm speaking in my capacity as a Liberian.
Okay. No, I mean, when you give that assurance, I'm thinking that where you were standing. But let me ask.
Whether you are in Liberia, I'm not concerned. Whether you are in Liberia speaking to us.
No, I'm right here in the United States.
All right.
But I have the facts.
Sure. And as we move on, let me go to Ms. Mesga, the only female for the night. Ms. Mesga, a little bit more that I didn't cover about you and your first reaction when you got the news. The 4th person has died under mysterious circumstances in Monrovia.
Thanks for having me once more. I think you covered it all. I work in a social work aspect in this country, protecting children and fighting for them to make sure that children are safe. And that's what my advocacy is about as well in Liberia, fighting for women and children. But I wear two hats tonight on this platform as a justice advocate and also as a victim sister. So when Mr. Zaulo said that he thinks Liberia is safe, I've been to Liberia 7 times in 3 years, several deaths and rape of children with no justice. And for him to say that tonight, I think we'll dive more into the conversation where I can give facts and also evidence where it's not a safe nation. And that's why I wore this t-shirt tonight. That was my first reaction. No justice, no peace.
Well, let's read that again. No justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
And when you first heard that a full person has died, your reaction was no justice, no peace.
No justice, no peace.
Councilman Russell, your first reaction, the fourth person died.
I mean, naturally, is disturbing. It's beyond me that these guys who are running the country don't seem to have an understanding of the impact of such a thing. They don't seem to appreciate that these kinds of unresolved crimes and that are happening in the country will have a direct and devastating impact on investors coming into the country and people going into Liberia as tourists. So across the board is very troubling, and it doesn't seem to really register on the minds of many of the leaders. They don't seem to be taking it very seriously. So I was very shocked by it. I'm very shocked by it, and I know how I would be during this conversation. I will be looking at what I am doing here locally and some of the experiences and some of the things that we are doing here locally in my city of 90,000 people. We have the largest concentration of Liberians outside of certainly within North America. I didn't say the largest number of Liberians, but concentrated in one place. The issue of crime and the increase of crime and crime resolution and all of those things. I mean, those are things that are very important to me, and these are things that I'm dealing with on a daily basis, because the police force, police chief reports to me, to the council, not me personally, but part of a 7-member council. So we get all of the reports of criminal activities in the country, in the city, and all of that. So I know a thing of two, and I know how people can get all razzled and how it can disrupt the orderly flow of life and commerce when you have people so jittery about crime taking place, and especially unresolved crime and crimes that are just back to back, or what seem to be back to back crime, are very important people too, doing some very important work. So those are some of the first reaction that I received when I read what was going on in Liberia, and some of the people, very prominent people too as well, who've been killed, and nobody knows what happened to them, and so mysteriously. So we're looking to dig deeper and talk about some of these issues as we move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Hina.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jha. Thanks for having me. I must admit, when I heard the news about the killing or the death of these people in Liberia, I was very shocked, and I knew it was very appalling for such a thing to happen in the street. First thing, because of the social media era, people will send you information when they receive it, by phone. And I'm watching this thing lying down. I just see the group of people going around, only to find out that 2 prominent people connected to auditing has been murder, put in the back of a car, one undressed. You know, what it reminds me of is the repeating of what has happened in our country over the years. And it's shocking to know that there will be a repetition of such a thing when I thought we've crossed that border to go way ahead. Now, I'm not pointing finger at a specific person, whether the government or what have you, but I'm pointing finger at the institution. Because when my brother told me there is a well-defined security system in the country, then I'm kind of thinking, I live in a country where there is actually the dispensation of justice, and I can say that. Yesterday, they finalized a case that was being for a little over 30 years. A 9-year-old little girl was raped and murdered, and someone was falsely accused of being the perpetrator of the act. He vehemently denied that he ever did that. They've been prosecuting this case for over 30 years. Finally, during the prosecution, they find a clothes of the little girl with a semen on it, and they took it to the States, and they did a DNA test. The DNA was able to find the exact person who committed the crime, even though the person had died. But this man can now live in peace because he had always said, I didn't do it, he didn't do it.
Thank you.
Why am I saying that? In our case in Liberia, there have been pattern of murder, especially during this administration when it comes to issues relating to the disappearance of things. If you recall, the 6 billion or 60 billion Liberian dollar issue, there was someone involved. Ines was also killed mysteriously. Now we hear they were auditing. All of these people that have been killed, the 4 people killed just within a short period of time, in the 8 days period, are all linked to this auditing. How then can we sit and say that this is just one of those things that happen? It needs to be investigated.
Right.
It should be investigated, and the answer should be brought to the people. Now, again, people always say, yes, it's investigated, but sometimes the investigations are inconclusive.
Right.
And they just leave it through on the road. So as we sit here in Canada and some of you in the United States, I don't think we should be rejoicing over this. This is appalling. This issue should be investigated, and a solution should be found, or a complete understanding should be made to us to tell us what really happened. We need to know.
Thank you. And that's where we come into what has happened. I know we've heard bits and pieces of the story from the press. In fact, sometimes there are conflicting information. The first story coming out. So here, what we heard so far. We found in the morning, we found 2 persons dead, Mr. Albert Peel and Albert Peters and Gifty Lama dead. They were locked up in the car. Days later, we heard Fambotu, who was in his car, also dead with wounds. And there were some reports that it was accident and all the other things. Then finally, we heard the death of the IAA director, Mr. Nyinswa. Some story we heard that he fell and all the things. So what has happened? What have we heard? So Mr. Zablo, you say you have some facts. So what's your story? Let's go around the room and see what do we know.
So, well, thank you very much, Dennis. Look, one of the things before I even go into that is that I'm a student of science. I spent all of my life studying science. And so when I speak on the facts. One of the courses I teach presently is a course it's a course of mathematics. We call it logic. So we teach people to reason and make logical arguments. And one of the things we are very careful about as we talk about logic is how we reach conclusions void of the facts or void of the premises that will lead up to that. And so let me clarify here, first of all, that the deaths that have happened are mysterious, and in some the ways that they occurred raises some level of suspicion, which is understandable. There's not a single rejoicing taking place at any levels of government. I know that for sure. That this government is taking this problem seriously, to the extent that President Weah has asked for outside help.
Yeah, and we'll come to that help, Mr. Zauro.
But let me come to that. So let me just say that. Now,
Yeah.
what I know so far is that 2 individuals were found in the car dead. The police is investigating. I also know of an accident that took place along the SKD Boulevard or so like that. Now, is it SKD Boulevard? Yes. And there's investigation going on. I also know that there was a death that occurred at a private residence, which appears to be somebody might have fallen from a senior government official might have fallen from his second floor room. Those are the information I have. And those information, the police and the security forces in our country is pursuing those investigations. They are digging deeper into it, and they are uncovering more and more information. And as those information when it becomes necessary, they'll release the information to the public. I want to encourage people in the public who have these facts, who know more about these things, to reach out to the security forces and bring down the evidence so you can assist them in their job. But I do know there's an active investigation going. The police, the security forces have never been this taxed, and they are going about the responsibility efficaciously to ensure the safety and security of every Liberian. And that's the information I know.
Ms. Mesga, what do you know?
I just want to ask a question real quick before we go further. Is Mr. Zawolo, educator, bringing in his educational points to this platform, or is he a spokesman for this case?
I think your question is misplaced.
Okay, I just want to.
Let me provide this to you. The reason why you are invited here and the reason why I'm invited here is because of our backgrounds, our ability to articulate on these issues. So when people are on these kind of situations, they tend to use some of that knowledge, some of those skills to assist them in forwarding their argument. That's exactly what I'm doing here. I'm not trying to. Because
I just hearing your language just say, you are speaking on behalf of the government. As I was asking, what was your role?
I don't speak on behalf of the government, but my views now because my views may align with the views of the government doesn't necessarily mean I speak on behalf of the government. I'm a private citizen. And it's so happening that we have a convergence of our views. That's all.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mr. Dennis, I'm going to go ahead and dive in there real quick. Like I said, I work in the Liberia justice system. My sister was murdered December 29, 2018. I've also spoken on many suspicious deaths in Liberia with no results. Odell Sherman, Vivian Rhea, Prince Carby, several people, John Davis. I can go on and on, the children that have been murdered in Liberia. 1,200 rape cases so far with no results. So when people are talking about they are working so hard, I'm talking about the past coming to the present. The one that's previous before these deaths have not been worked on. So I'm not convinced. We have a polluted justice system, and that's what we are demanding. We are not asking, we are not begging. Today, I'm speaking on behalf of my victims. We want justice.
So far, what do you know about what has happened? What are you hearing?
So far, and I'm going to speak on in a reference to the Miss Gifty husband's testimony that I watched. Number one, our victim's husband was concerned about him not even seeing his deceased wife's body. They met on an auditing thing that was on a meeting, and somebody called them somewhere. And the next thing is their body is found in the middle of Monrovia on Broad Street with them in the car, and the news is going around that our victims were having an affair, and which we know there wasn't. But so many things happened. I mean, when I watched it live on the day of their bodies were found, several mishaps happened in a country where there is no good logistics when it comes to investigating issues. My sister is also an example, and people on previous victims where the car sat down there. The entire citizens were all over the car. So many evidence were already taken. People were taking pictures of our victims that also came with their dignity. If we had a structural system, that wouldn't have happened. But I saw that from a live video. So many things happened. So when Mr. Zawolo said, our police are working really hard, several things happened just in the middle of that scene of two human beings, two prestigious people. What I read about their background, brilliance, technocrats, intellectual citizens of Liberia. Their body was there to the public, open to the public. So many things have to their dignity. And I felt perplexed watching that, because that's the same thing that happened to my sister, Odell Sherman, all our victims. And this is a repeated systematic thing in Liberia.
Great. Thank you. And Gagon, we can't deny that there has been a pattern of these unresolved deaths. But in this one, is it fair to call this a murder? All these four, and why, based on what you know so far?
Well, I was listening to Mr. Zawo speaking that he has the facts and he's a student of the facts. So I just wanted to know, I don't know where is he getting his facts from, because the information that was out in the public, I mean, it's everybody, if you're not aware about it, it was on Yahoo News, it was on Front Page Africa. So these are things that were reported, that were documented by the police. So I don't know what facts are we referring to. I don't know whether the police are classifying this as a murder or as a homicide, or what investigation are they doing. And I understand that a lot of our police department security system is underfunded. They don't have that many, the capacity, the tools. They don't have the knowledge, the know-how, like Councilman Russell stated earlier. So, I don't know if this investigation will lead to any results. It happened during Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, the Henry Greaves situation. There was camera. There's nobody was prosecuted for murder. So I'm not sure. So I think tonight, some of our focus as we go about discussing how is it that we can help improve systems in Liberia to try to target some of these mishaps by the government. What type of assistance do they need? Do they need some type of security assistance? So these are things that I'm mainly interested, because I think the investigation is just. I learned that George, we are asked the U.S. Embassy, a whole sitting nation cannot investigate its own murders or crimes that are happening constantly in the country. You asking another country embassy to help you. I don't know if this is a fitting or sitting government right now that cannot investigate crime. And I understand. I know they're very limited to a lot of things in this country.
Councilman Russell, with this death, and we are, and Gakon, I can assure you we're going to get to that point. We want to lay the premise here. We're hearing about this murder. You have a police department reporting to the city council of which you are part. What is the impact, or what are the implications of these things that we are hearing? And let me take your mind back to, I think before the show I was talking about during, in the 1980s, the death of Esther Parker under the double bridge, and they said she was drunk. Esther Parker was maybe connected to the investigation going on with the Chief Justice at that time, the late Councilor Chiachipo. There was another investigation going on the 8th floor at the executive mansion, and the suspect reportedly jumped from the 6th floor down and died. That was what was reported. And during the regime of Mr. President Taylor, we have all these deaths with VP Ina Dokoli and the rest of it, or Doki and the rest of it. Fast forward to President Sirleaf, we have Harry Greaves, we have Allison and other deaths. And then earlier in the presidency of President Weah, we have Inez, and these things continue. What are the implications and what's the impact of this kind of happenings, Mr. Russell? Put on your councilman hat here.
I mean, obviously, the implications are grave. I mean, bottom line is that there's no need to be sugarcoating what we're talking here today. I mean, all of us, as part of this forum, know that this government is spectacularly incompetent. I mean, it's just that simple. I mean, it is as clear as day that they don't know what they're doing. So you have these deaths taking place. It's not by accident. When you have this sort of pattern and of people who are auditors and have been supposedly conducting audit on some apparently some corrupt practices, and all of a sudden folks are dropping dead, that has a huge and serious implication. So as a leader, and if you are part of this administration, you should be worried, you should be concerned, not only about investors and tourists and other folks coming to the country, but your own people, the well-being and the anxiety level in the country has gone up as a result of this. But contrary to what others may want us to believe, that folks are serious about this, so they were asking foreign government to do this. We don't need foreign government to come in to investigate this murder. We don't need foreign government to come in to come on the radio or to come and send messages out to our folks to ensure that they're not as fearful as people are becoming. I mean, all of us on this call, I'm sure we are getting the calls from Liberia. We're hearing people are so worried about all these different things. So, so the implications are just grave.
Mr. Russell, let me stop you there. You call the government incompetent. And what's different from the deaths that are outlined since starting from the Dole regime where I grew up to this point, right? What's different? What makes the murders or the investigation in this murder different from what we saw with the death of Harry Greaves, of Allison, or with Esther Parker and the rest of it? Why you think why is different here?
Well, one of the things that have unfortunately that has and I've written about this too as well, that had linger in this country for a very long time is this whole culture of impunity. So one of the common thread between all of these murders, and all of the things that you pointed to, crimes that have taken place have gone unresolved, is this whole issue of impunity, for one. Now, many of us grew up around the Samuel Doe time too. Became a little conscious in high school and all that sort of stuff. So we know that the environment there was was a whole different type situation, because it was an extension of a military government, and those guys, I can still remember, though I'm sure many of us on this call were all in high school or if not junior high school and all of that, but we can still remember how treacherous and how dictatorial Dole was and the whole system was. So not to sound like an apologist or to excuse that, but you're right, Dennis. We still have the same level of incompetence. There's nothing different really. There's just some shade of gray here and there. There's really nothing different between the incompetence that was exhibited and the raw brutality that was exhibited by the Dole administration and the Taylor administration, and the level of incompetence that was exhibited by the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf government, and what we have now. So we are here. We're talking about the here and now. Yes, what had happened before sort of give us a guide as to how we can go about analyzing the situation now. When it happened during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration, you had the UN there too as well, and still things didn't get done. Still, we didn't get any resolution to what happened to Michael Allison and to Harry Greaves. But then you made matter worse when you have a government like we have now that it is so indifferent to the struggles and the challenges that people are having, that is so spectacularly incompetent. It makes it even worse. It makes what happened, before it was. Now, I'm not trying to make light of those people who were killed before. They're any different from now, but it's like the same old thing over and over again. But now, we are leaders now in our own right, individually, and all of that. And so this stuff is of concern to us. This is our future that is being squandered.
Mr. Hina, he made Mr. Russell say concern to us. Who should be concerned about this and why?
I think we Liberians, we should be concerned about that, especially for those of us who still have some years ahead. And I say that because I place myself in that situation. I've seen a lot of things happen in Liberia from the days of President Tubman to Talbot to the Samuel Doe and Taylor and the rest of us, coming down, even up to my own good friend who passed away, Julie Bryan. I've been around Liberian politics for a very long time, and I've worked with people closely to see what they've done. That pattern of elimination by opposition in Liberia has become, it is a very serious thing, and it's like embedded in our blood. From the days of Totman, when he was sending his PRO to even get anybody that spoke against him from D12 days. And the thing is, no matter what the situation is, whether it's for girlfriend, whether it's for releasing public information, the only solution they've always had for that is taking the life of people. Eliminate the guy. They send you as a minister to work in his office, and you find out something is not right there. You try to correct it, and when you correct it, they will be affected. They will eliminate you. You can't speak against them. You can be in a circle. I'm hearing the pieces of information I gathered that even among the 4 people that were killed, 2 of them are like top seditions, they call them. Top supporters of the ruling government. Now, if these people were killed like this without the ruling government knowing anything about it, tell me what you would have seen in the street. Mobla Molu and the other boy there from City Hall would not have a group marching in the street demanding justice as they will always do. So these are things that have been pattern of successive government that they take to implement against their people. And somebody asked, why you talk like that? Because for some of us, we started from what we saw in that country. I went to local government. So I started local government and I started governance. And the reason why I started governance, because I realized that that is a major issue that we find in our country. We have this thing called government that we put in the hands of one person in Liberia. And we look up to him as the God to disseminate all the information that have to come down. We don't have a civil service or a professional bureau that help us to investigate. That is why we have a dysfunctional police, a dysfunctional political system, because there's no way. Everyone should be independent to do something. If I look at the model of the political system in Canada, that's why the prime minister will answer to the people, to the government. Anybody as an official government will answer. I mean, with all due respect, I'm not talking about what you have in the United States right now, which is completely worse than George Weah's system in Liberia. But here in Canada, if you are the prime minister and you commit a crime, you will face the public and you have to answer the question to it. Why? Because we have a decentralized political system. Everyone has to play their part. In each of our cities here, even if the mayor should die, the government will continue to run, the local government will continue to run, pay their staff and everything until we can put a new mayor in place. In this country, the prime minister should pass away. The country will run effectively. Everything will be on par until we have a new prime minister. Try that in Liberia today. Just let George Weah have a fresh cold and sneeze and die. The whole country is in chaos. Not even talking one minister from his ministry, something happened. Before the new minister will come, everything will be out of control. Why am I saying this? Well, Councilman Rossa said it, incompetence in the political system. And then that incompetence leads to fear. And the fear leads to such a murder that is going on. I'm listening to some of the podcasts or what they call the Sunday around. I hear the president in his church. And the issue where someone will actually issue a strong political statement or a strong statement leading to where you can find a solution, the president's statement was not encouraging at all. In fact, one of the things he was talking about deportees. He considered deportees from the United States there as people who have violated the laws here. Well, partly could be true. And then that's why they send them back home. That was totally out of the issue. People were asking questions on the issue that was happening the very day in the country. So what can we do as citizens?
Right.
We as citizens.
We'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that. Let me go to Gakan. We're talking about, updates from the government to because when things of this nature happen, the citizens want to be assured that things are fine, they should be calm. And are we getting that regular updates, or what is the sense we're getting from our government that they are doing everything in their power to bring the perpetrators to book, and that we are getting regular updates to show that the government is concerned, transparent, and want us to be in the know of what is going on?
Well, I mean, he said updates. I mean, Liberia is not a normal country, so.
What does that mean, normal country?
it's not a normal country.
That's interesting.
I would know it as me growing up in the U.S. comparing to Liberia is not a fair comparison because of how I know how things supposed to work compared to Liberia. It won't be normal to me, so that's why I say it's not normal. It may be normal to people that live in Liberia or that grew up in Liberia, but as far as what I know, it's not a normal country. So yeah, so in terms of updates, I think there's just too many parties involved. I think in terms of the police being involved, the police should be investigating the actual crime. Is it a crime? Have they identified as a crime? Who killed? And then in terms of they should be giving the constant updates in terms of where it's going. They need to either turn the body over to a medical examiner to see what the actual cause of death is. So these are constant update that we need, that Liberians need to hear about it, and maybe the developments as they get in contact with the U.S. Embassy for an assistance to see how close we are to find the committer of that crime, or whoever committed all those crimes need to be prosecuted. But I don't honestly think we are getting adequate updates unless somebody else is hearing something.
Yeah, let's see what Mr. Zavlo is hearing. Mr. Zavlo, I don't know. We're not getting the updates, and I personally don't feel that the president is that enraged about this. Do you see that this is business as usual, or these 4 deaths is just out of the ordinary?
Let me quickly disavow and dismiss as totally untruth the assertion here that the president does not seem as enraged as he should be. Dr. Weah.
Maybe because he was dancing zombie.
Dr. Weah is extremely concerned. He's troubled by the death of these individuals, especially so people who have worked in his government. And he is committed to making sure that the truth will come to earth and that the perpetrators, if there were any perpetrators, will be brought to justice. Ms. Mescott spoke here today, and I think, that's why it's always good to bring a female, and I'm so proud that she says not that she says, but she's my wife's, play daughter. She brought a lot of sense here, and that's what's missing. When I hear people talk about competence in a dismissive and denigrating way, I want to just go back to what she said about the crime scene at where the 2 individuals were found in the vehicle. She was right. The entire crime scenes were tampered with. The police did a very shady job on the scene, and those are the concerns that we all Liberians should be concerned about. The issue here is not necessarily that people are trying to hide the facts or not to uncover the truth. The problem is, as a consequence of the Civil War, we have lost a whole lot of our top professionals who have the ability to be able to dig down into these kind of things and come up with the information that we need very early as possible. Yes, there has been very scanty information coming out to the public, which I think is good. The fact that the public is not getting a lot of information, I think is good, at least to protect the integrity of the case and to show respect for the bereaved families. I believe that when information come out, it should be information that if it cannot bring full closure, it should lead to a better understanding of what transpired and at least be able to ease the burden and pain, not just of the bereaved family, but of people in the country. Our country is going through a very difficult time. You will take into consideration that the former president had the assistance for almost 12 years of a UN peacekeeping mission. They were responsible for a whole lot of things that this government today has to assume responsibility for. And it's challenging. Mr. Russell talked about incompetence, and all of those things are fine. Mr. Russell is a councilman of a city that is a failing city. He understands what led him to run for office. He ran for office because he wanted to correct some of the ills in his city. His city is a city with a bunch of failing schools. It's a city where there are crimes. There are tons of people living in ghettos and in poverty in the world's richest country. Yet for him, he doesn't appear to be concerned about incompetence in that direction. He's not concerned. He's not concerned about incompetence in that direction. Mr. Russell sits on a council where I think 3 or so of the council members barely has a high school certificate. But yet he sees incompetence.
That's an elected office.
Yes, he sees incompetence in Liberia. The issue here is that we have a problem in our country, and it requires the contribution and the support of all of us. I embrace people like Ms. Mesca, who will lead a movement to fight for justice. I embraced it. And she will do so by calling on government to do its work. And I support her in that direction. But let's be very careful about how we characterize other people. Let's be careful about how we denigrate our government. Okay? Yes, again, let me conclude by saying there's a very scanty information coming up, which I think is good. Usually, what happens in this kind of situation in Liberia, too much information comes out. The perpetrators get to hear the information, and then they build shield around themselves, and you will never get the truth. And those things become unresolved. I will assure you, if there were people who committed these murders, who committed any form of murders, that in this case, these issues would not be unresolved. We'll get down to the bottom of it. Okay. We'll find out the perpetrators. If there was any reason that any one of these people were killed for, we'll find out and we'll make sure that those people are persecuted. Lastly, I think it was Mr. Hina was talking about had this thing happened, if it wasn't for sedition. Look, let's stop this talk about seditions or not sedition. The life of every Liberian is precious. The life of every Liberian is precious. I was in a meeting. I was on the phone when Harry Greaves, or the news about Harry Greaves' death occurred. And I was in a conversation on the phone with some of the very individuals that was mentioned here today. And I know how they felt that day. And I know how they feel about everything like this in Liberia. So there's no one that is going out there rejoicing about his death. The president is not sleeping because he knows the implication of this. So he's not sleeping. He knows, he understands the implication of all of these things to investors,
Thank you,
the safety and security of ordinary Liberians. So he's enraged. He's enraged.
Thank you. I wanted to go to Howard, but I think Mr. Russell will want to respond to what you've said. But Mr. Russell, on top of what you're going to respond to, I just wanted to clear how these 4 murders now in the span of 8 days different from all other murders. But go ahead and respond to what Mr. Zaulo says. Say, well, you sit on you don't say incompetent to the very city council that you sit on, but you say the government of Liberia is incompetent. Respond to that.
I think, I mean, it's not much to say to rebut what Mr. Zaulo just said, because every single one of us as part of this forum every single one of us knows that what he's saying is completely laughable. Incompetence? Seriously? The city of Brooklyn Park? Look, we are the 6th largest city in the state of Minnesota. Yes, do we have crime in the city? Yes, we are a 2nd-ring suburb, and a lot of issues we receive from the city of Brooklyn, the city of Minneapolis, which is a much larger city. Okay, so a lot of those things filter into Brooklyn Park. But how are we different from the management of our city from the management and the governance of the Republic of Liberia? The way we are different is that we take bold action in solving these problems, whether it's crime, whether it's trying to close the educational achievement gap here. We don't bury our heads under the sand. Okay, so to even compare, like the brother said earlier, Brother Moa said earlier, that comparing I know sometimes we like to do that because it's easier. Many of us live here and we can easily relate to what's going on here. So we try to compare situations here with that of with what's going on in Liberia. But it's like night and day. Right? It's like night and day. You cannot compare the educational system in Brooklyn Park with that of the entire Republic of Liberia. Not possible. Not even close. So do we have crime? We do have crime, but we don't have any unresolved crime. Not such of what we have going on in Liberia. These 4 murders over an 8-day period, killing 4 prominent people. It will never happen. It will never happen, and it doesn't happen. Now, we have a lot of petty crime, a lot of petty issue. You talk about some of our city council members not having college degree and all of that. As well, I think one of the other brothers on the forum here, they've already answered that. This is not about degrees. So you guys have all of these inflated degrees and stuff. You calling George Weah a doctor, Dr. Weah. You of all persons should even go there. This is about what can you bring to the table? How can you solve people's problems? How can you improve their lives? We have a balanced budget. We have a robust city. We have a very effective governance structure. Our entire city government, police, fire, the city hall. We have the largest solar energy system in the entire state of Minnesota. You want to compare? No, my brother, don't do that. Don't do that. There's no comparison. There's no comparison. Okay, now.
Thank you. And
Mr. John.
Yeah.
If I may, I know you want to talk to Hawa, but
yeah, sure.
Yeah, Mr. Zawula, I think it's unfair, to let us stay focused on the issue, because I know how I asked you a question earlier, like, who are you representing? If you're speaking from as a general Liberian, I don't think, we should be trying to defend a government that we know is not going nowhere. You can point all the pointers out. The government it's a failing government. It's taking Liberia back 50 years. The facts are everywhere if you want to point out the facts. So I think let us just see how we can try to focus on helping Liberia. What suggestion, what recommendation we can make to see how we can improve the security sector. Because right now, if I ask you what is the current budget of the security, the entire police force compared to the city that the councilman is from, it will be laughable to even ask that question, because that budget alone. But go ahead.
Yeah, if you want us to concentrate on what we can do, if you bring that up, Zawula was responding. But how I've been consistently raising this point that other things are happening. She gave example of the rape that is just through the roof, and other crimes that are happening. And sometimes when we discuss this crime, people are very quick to look at government. And so if you support government and then you come back and then you become defensive. But let's look at, besides the 4 deaths, there was another death reported around, I think it was Ghanarsville, where this guy believed to be a motorcyclist probably was being robbed, and then he put up resistance, he was killed. Okay, and this is a daily occurrence now in Monrovia. The people that are in the they call them Zogos. People are committing crimes all over the place. They are armed. I mean, if you slept in a house in Monrovia, you'll be afraid, because they have maybe 16 iron bars behind the door. How do you get out in case there's fire? So the place is kind of, besides the 4 deaths we are talking about, there is a lot of other things going on. So in the midst of that, and how I'm always bringing about the issue of the rape, so there are a lot of things that are not resolved. And whether the government is physically responsible, killing the people or not, is not the issue, but the government has the responsibility to protect lives and property.
So, Dennis, Jack, can I come in?
Yeah, sure. That's your turn.
Okay. All right. I see the political people talking. So for the clarification, because I've seen some of your audience comments, I belong to no political party. But yeah, I do oppose to injustice, So because the late Harry Graves was murdered in the last regime, is not a justification to compare to the 4 auditors' death. We should stop bringing the justification. I've seen some of your audience comments. Let's talk about all the deaths. Because it happened in the past, is not a justification for it to happen in the present. The reason why the regime came to power, because the past regime has failures. And the Liberian people went to the poll and they exercised their votes to get a better choice. And this choice should be able to execute for our people. Okay, I'm focused today on my victims. I don't know about anybody else, but I know our pledge of allegiance clearly states liberty and justice for all. And that's why I'm here for today. We know they were murdered, but there was so many foul play. I mean, listen to this. The international global community is concerned about this death. Why are we not outraged? The UK International is raising eyebrow. The Human Rights Watch is raising eyebrow. The Steve Harvey Morning Show discussed this issue. Okay, Time Magazine have discussed this. Why are we not outraged about this? We are not here today to do a debate on political thing and protect people. We are here to protect our citizens. Okay, this thing have happened continuously. I've been to Liberia. For me, when I say something, I'm present about it. I've been to Liberia. I have records of rape cases that people in Liberia have not even touched. The gender ministry have not even touched. Children have been violated. Women have been killed. And some of these women don't have names. The little girl that died in Nema County, beheaded on the road from selling, and somebody violated her. She don't have a name like Gifty and Albert and Ginswa, but she's still a Liberian citizen. We want to have a country that have a structure. When something happens, there should be an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to even compare America. Our neighbor, Ghana. We had a recent rape case in Ghana that happened. A little girl named Khadija stirred up the whole country. The president, not Ghana, Sierra Leone. The president of Sierra Leone was updating his people every other 24, 42, 72 hours about this death, and justice came. And we have to be compared to our peers, not the Western world. Ghana is improving security. Ghana have a system that can put murderers into a system. When you commit a crime, your picture is in the system. People know you have committed a crime. And even people that violate children, they have a structural system. That's what I want for Liberia. I don't care personally who is there. Once the person is displaying that they have a leadership capability to serve our people where, that is my focus. My focus is for us to have structure. Because when this regime leave and the next people come and there's no structure, the same thing will happen. It's been happening. So we are not naive to say it hasn't happened. It's that the first time it's happening. We have records to prove that it has happened. But how do we go forward? How do we make a plan? How do we hire competent experts to come in to save our people, to protect them? Our people needs to be protected. We live in a country where when something happened, nobody knows. My sister died, for God's sake. The Liberian National Police were asking me to pay their way to go investigate a case. My sister was a Liberian citizen. The law should back her up. It should back Gifty up. It should back Albert up. It should back Niswa up. It should back Mr. Famboto up. This is our fight today. Our fight is we want answers. We know there was foul play because the international committee is also questioning why there is 4 senior auditors mysteriously killed. Now, the question today is, who are their murderers and who's next in the killing field? That's the question.
Dennis,
and that question is scary for me, because anytime we come here and get educated, our dream is to return home to Liberia to make a difference. I personally want to start a Model 6 or elementary school that I will sit in Liberia and teach and be able to, because I have kids that are in the 3rd grade, and man, these kids, my son is reading at the level of a 12th grader plus in Liberia. And he's not better than the guy who was born in Campley. But it's because of the facility, right? So how can we create that in Liberia? So that leads us to our next session, which says, what can we do about this, both in the short term and the long term? This has happened, and clearly Hawa has emphasized that this is just these 4 deaths, even though they are high profile and we are all the eyebrows are raised, but there are a lot of other deaths that are happening around the country. I just read in my own county, Sino, there was this commissioner. Okay, they said he asked a lady asked to get on a motorbike. So he put the lady on the motorbike. When they got somewhere, he said he wanted to use the restroom. Take the lady from the motorbike and cut her into pieces. I mean, this is Liberia. So what do we do, Mr. Hina? Let me start with you. How do we move forward? I know that the president said we have asked the U.S. for help and all the different things, but both in the short term and the long term, what can we do to solve these kind of problems and put in a mechanism through which that this doesn't happen anymore?
Thank you, Mr. Ja. And I just wanted to commend both the three speakers there of late, Mr. Zaulo and the councilman, along with my sister. I know she's angry when you look at a situation like this, that it's a pattern of repeat in the same fashion. And for some of us who have lived long to see this thing, we can tell you that it happened in the days of Tottenham, it happened in the days of Tolbo, it happened. But now that because of the social media, today is being more vivid than we thought in the past, because sometimes it happen for a long time without hearing anything about it. But today is like on the spot as it happened to go through. There is what we need in Liberia is a first thing we have to transform ourselves, our own heart. We have to transform our own heart.
Mr. Hina, hold on 1 second. There's a comment here from Miri Bro. I'm thinking this is the former city mayor, Miri Bro. Say, Harry Greaves was not murdered. He hit rock bottom, promised investors, and he committed suicide. Quote me and read the report on his death. That's news to me, so I thought I should read that. Go ahead, Mr. Hina.
That's good. So
I'm so sorry, Mr. Hina. I'm so sorry. I have to come in.
Yeah.
You know, when people make comments like this, it's Miss Mira, bro. With all due respect, is she a forensic expert to determine that? Is she a forensic expert?
Just allegations. So let's just move on.
Yeah. Well, we have our pieces of information. Like for instance, when you see those video or the pictures of the people, my sister sent me one of the pictures for the other guy who they alleged was involved in the accident. I just watched a video where the guy sitting down on the ground, and I text her back. I said, yeah, this could be an accident. Then she sent me 2 additional pictures where you see the guy hair, his forehead is fully open, like open with a Mercedes. Then I begin to wonder, and that car is equipped with an airbag system. If it hits something, I didn't see the airbag blowing off. I don't see what the car hit. So these are all the things like Mr. Zawolo said, will lead us to start doing more and more investigation when they come out. But here is the thing.
Yeah,
we have a dysfunctional political system in our country that need to be revamped. And I say we should start with ourselves. The problem is of us Liberians. I heard somebody say one time God made 3 groups of people. He made a white man, black man, and he made a Liberian man.
And not true.
Yes. Because she just mentioned Ghana. They are black people. You see the system they got. She mentioned other areas, and Ghana has gone through exactly what we went through, in fact, worse than what we went through in Liberia. But it took one man to change the whole system. And the reason why we are like this is because even us educated people who have Western education, we don't imply our own human reasoning. We are greeted. When we get into power in Liberia, we become myself. In the end, you become just like the people you met there. And why we can't change the ordinary people is because we prove to them that we are greeted. Who steal for the higher ups in Liberia? They're the messengers, the office boys. They don't want to carry their checks. They carry their girlfriends. They do everything. All of the dubious things we do when we get to power, we use this very little people to do it. So they don't believe in the system because we're supposed to nurture the system and we break the system. So how do we solve this thing in Liberia? Is to have a sound, responsible, decisive government that will focus on the issue. Because that's my area. Governance is what is lacking. And it's lacking not just in the big sector, it's lacking even in our homes. In our homes. How will you carry your little daughter or your little son to your girlfriend, then they start calling her auntie, or you, the woman, do it, they start calling your boyfriend uncle? Why we do these things? We are one of the worst group of people I've ever come across to see. I have worked in the Liberian for led refugees. I have come here. I say, well, this is clear. No one begging for water. We got everything to just bring them together here to find out how can we move forward. It's a war. So if you ask me, how can we do this in Liberia? I don't know. Maybe a total transformation to bring about the system so that we can have respect for law. And if you ask one thing we can do, and I've said it to your show many times, We need to decentralize the political system in Liberia and hold people accountable. Everywhere in this developed country we are, people are elected, whether educated or uneducated, they are elected, people build confidence in them, and they're supposed to sit down and mind the people's business. When you can't do it, when you're 4 years old, they vote you out, and you go find your own way to go. We should have a system like that in Liberia, not the president being the godfather of the nation. He appoints from the cleanup down to the, up to the ministers. We had a pattern during Talbot days, from assistant minister all the way down to directors. There were civil servants. Today, the president appoints the head of the janitors. It's appointed by the president. Why?
Thank you.
Mr. Jab, I'm sorry. I would like you to please inform your audience, because I'm not going to come on the platform for people to disrespect my deceased sister. And your audience members are typing in there saying that everywhere I go, I speak about her. I remain unapologetic until justice comes. Every platform that I go on, I will acknowledge my sister, because she died in a country who failed her and did not give her justice, along with all our victims. So I don't care who put comments there. I remain unapologetic for what I stand for, and I stand for justice. And every platform I go on, I will talk about my sister and all our other victims. So just let your audience be clear on that. Anywhere I go, yep, if you invite me, you should know that. You should know who I am. I'm a justice advocate. I'm a revolutionary woman. Anywhere I go, justice is my quest. My sister need to be mentioned until the government of Liberia tell me who killed her and all our other victims.
And how are we invite? One reason we invited you is because of that background. You are a strong justice advocate, and our condolences once more for the death of your sister. The comments and we that are in this business, sometimes we know that we kind of used to the people now that they are commenting.
It's fine with me. I just want to highlight that limitations.
People come to sometimes distract from what I've been doing so far. There are certain things they don't want you to say. Then they either categorize you as this side or that side. So we're used to that, and that's why we don't sometimes give it much credence, or sometimes we just read it for just leisure purpose. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. We are discussing murders in Monrovia, a roundtable. My guest, Mr. Francis Hina, who is joining us from Canada. He's working local government. We have Mr. Winfred Russell, councilman from Brooklyn Park. Mr. Isaac Zawlo, an instructor in the Arlington school system, and also in the college, at the college level. I have Mr. Gakon Moe. He leads some young people, that's the young and innovative leaders of Liberia. He's joining us from Chicago. And of course, Hawa Mesga, a justice advocate and a social worker. We have, we're going to open the phone lines to have a little interaction with people that are watching us. And we have our first caller who is already set to interact. And after the caller, we're going to come to you, Gakon, so that we see how we move forward. Our first caller here is from the Washington, D.C. area. Isaac, I hope it's not you calling us. Okay, caller, you are live.
How are you?
Your name and where you calling from?
Hello?
Hello?
Hey, this is Vincent Kier calling from D.C.
Vincent, you're live. Question or comment?
Okay, thank you very much for the show. I'm very happy for the show. You are so extremely well for the show, for letting us to at least to come and be on the show. You know, first of all, in life, it's an opportunity that God gives every man to travel. But if you travel and try to make your country be that way, or think your country will be that way that other countries look, it downplays your country is bad. You know, I listen to some economists. One of the economists that usually statement and then go down with me. I was really across. Everybody knows Liberia they came out to from the 1980s, from the 70s upward. The suffering in Liberia is not starting now. It started from way back. But if people looking at Liberia will be like, because of this other regime coming power, so you look at Liberia will be like, okay, or Liberia are better before than the other regime. It's bad. What else the person is educated or is the leadership in power is not working. When you look at your country, will be like, the country is not nowhere to be on earth. It's bad. During the early time when army was in the country, do you know how many things are happening in the country? You know how many things are happening in the country? When army was in control of the security system, do you know how many things happen? For people looking at this regime to be like the worst regime in Liberia, it's not good. Everybody is against the death that happened.
Right.
Everybody is against the death. But when we're discussing the death, let's discuss the death according to the death, not the person of government or this one. People are in regime where power controlled by the international community. Do you know how many deaths that happen? Somebody died from the sea way down and everybody come up. You see that death are something to all look. So people now come out and talk. But because they want. Because the regime power now it's more downplay the whole government, the whole country. It's bad. You get education from different countries.
Mr. Vincent?
But you do mean that education be like.
Mr. Vincent? Yeah, let's forget about the government. What you say about the deaf?
That's what I'm saying. For me, I know as long as the person came on and said the international community come or meaning the US, where everybody from Liberia believes in, or the whole world believes in, I think we need a good government change and need a good president change. I need to see how to make it so they don't come under control. Because everybody in Liberia, or even we are outside Liberia, we get by the death.
Thank you.
Even when I go on Facebook, I watch the shoot something, I felt bad. So let's get the government change to the best case.
Thank you. I was coming to you, Hassan, but we have an international caller. Let me get it in quickly. Josh Wheeler, go ahead, you're live. And let's be very brief.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Jah. And look, I appreciate all of your panelists. And my point here is that we all want the best for Liberia. But just like the first caller has said, looking for the best for Liberia, but trying to denigrate, others for it, I think it's unfair.
Okay.
I worked for the United Nations in Liberia for about 3 or 4 years before leaving Liberia as an expatriate. And I do know that the police apparatus in Liberia were trained by the United Nations. And while the United Nations was still there taking care of security, things happen. Look, let's take it for a fact. We disagree, and we don't want any Liberian to die the way people are dying in Liberia. But that does not negate the fact that because people are dying, that means the government is incompetent. Okay. I think it's wrong, and we should also consider that in other countries, like where I live in Australia. A woman went to a nightclub. While coming back, she was kidnapped, she was raped, and she was killed. There was an investigation. But you know what saved the investigation? Because there was CCTV. So we need infrastructural development in Liberia to fight some of these crimes. So in the crime, you cannot say we'll go to a soup sale, to tell us who killed this person. There should be some infrastructure in place that can help fight the crimes. Because those who are police in Liberia now were not trained by George Weah. They were trained by the United Nations.
Mr. Wheeler,
Mr. Jah.
So you understand why the people coming from, right? Because the one that happened in Australia, the people were able to find the perpetrator from the camera. But in Liberia, that's not happening. That's
I know,
that's why the people are angry about. So you should understand that, right?
Yeah, then that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I understand that. And that's what I'm saying. We need infrastructural development to have some of these crimes fought.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me go to my next caller, Hassan Keith. Hassan, briefly.
Yeah, how are you, Mr. Jah? And hi to all your panelists. We all have that sympathy for the family that lose the loved one, and I think anybody in Liberia with a sound mind will not support the death of innocent and Liberian. But what we need to be careful for, and it's about blaming and calling the government reckless or incompetent, whatever terminology one of your panelists use. But what I'm saying, I grew up in Bomi Hills, and I was fortunate to be a friend of our uncle. His name is Samuel Meziga, the late Samuel Meziga. Both of us went to the bathroom at a school called HQ Taylor, and he had a seizure, and at that time, people never had the experience for seizure, and he passed away. They led us to believe that his father, he was a magistrate, that this man killed his children for position. I grew up hating that man. I hated him because he killed my friend. When I got mature enough and I realized it's a lie. This boy had a seizure and he passed away. So the narrative in Liberia to let people believe that they killed this person. I don't know what government going to kill somebody and drive the car in the middle of Broad Street. They must be reckless because there's a lot of place. Every single death is the government. We have to wait for the investigation. We have to wait for the investigation because I know, like I say, I've been there for a gentleman who passed away, and I hated this man in Bummy Hills. We all hated him. Anybody that grew up in Bummy Hills will know what I'm talking. We all hated this magistrate and Mesga because we thought they make us to believe that he's a killer. So we need to stop.
Thank you,
Mr. Jha.
Thank you.
Since Mr. Jha, somebody just called a family member of my name here. I didn't know there was a discussion on our victims today. We keep going away from the topic, and we're not staying on the topic. My great-grand-uncle died how many years ago? And Mr. Kev has signed a supporter of this regime that come in my inbox and insults me. And you think when he come on here and say to build a character assassination to my grand-uncle who was a magistrate, the late Bill Messer, people who know his credentials, you're going to come on here and say that nonsense? I'm not going to condone that. Let's move forward.
Thank you. Let me go to Gakon, and we're going to come back to the phone line. Gakon, we're talking solutions now. How do we move forward?
Well, I recommend that the Liberian government, President Weah, you need to prioritize safety and security. You should raise the budget for not only our police officers, also the military. I think within that, being that Mr. Hannan said that you have reason to believe that some of these people were key members within the CDC-led government, and the president should prioritize security. I think that will be a point of trying to seek justice in Liberia. We need to bring some type of forensic lab that will be able to have either ran by an expert that is Liberian, that is trained, to see if this is something that he seriously wants his name or his government to be clear of, because many Liberians are saying that he is involved, or it is the CDC-led government are carrying on all these mysterious killing. So I think once he invests in those things and asks the international community to help him train police officers and security agency officer, any private security, whatever, that will help solve crimes in Liberia, I think that would be a good start. I think Liberians from the diaspora, Liberians in Liberia deserve to feel safe and protected when they're traveling and while they're living in Liberia. So I think that would be a first start, prioritizing security, increasing the budget allotment for security officers in Liberia, proper training on how to identify crime related to either homicide, murder, and things of that nature. Like when Hawaii spoke earlier, saying that the crime scene was tainted because it wasn't well secured. Those are things that I think that will help, bring about finding people guilty and prosecuting people who are committing crimes in Liberia.
Thank you. Let me go back to our callers. Abraham, calling from 414 area code.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, hello. This is Abraham. Yeah, man. Thank you very much for the show. Even though this is one of the most unbalanced panel I've ever seen on your show. But I just want to. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say, inviting the Americans on board, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. I see a lot of Liberians got problem with it. Oh, this, that. Look, it doesn't look that I can name dozens of incidents around the world that they have invited Americans. During the shooting of the airline in over Ukraine over there, they invited the American. The MH13 that disappeared or that airline, every incident in the world. And these are countries not that they don't have forensic, not that they don't have the sophistication, but because America is the model of democracy in the world. They got some of the best forensic, they got some of the best medical examiner, they got some of the best detectives. But I was surprised, one of the show I came from work, and There was one of the show I couldn't believe. This lady on the show said even if they invite a white American, it will be a white American that George Weah has manipulated. I'm like, are you kidding me? So they have just built that in their mind. I swear to God, today Sunday, I'm telling you, the people have built this in their mind that no matter what it is, George Weah is responsible for that death. Even if he invite Jesus Christ, they will say no, they don't agree. So I don't know why they have problem with bringing the Americans on board. And that to me, that is a right step in the right direction. In terms of transparency, in terms of accountability. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And callers, please be brief. Let me bring on Steve Bole.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ja. This is Steve Bole, commonly known as Moses, calling from Phoenix, Arizona. I'd like to, as usual, recognize and acknowledge the Liberian women as the most beautiful women on earth. And Liberian people are the most important people on earth. This is why we are discussing the Liberian people today. I must commend your panelists on there today for their deliberation. I believe they care about the country regardless of which side is taken, whether it's the advocacy side or to support a certain group or certain or person. But I do want to stress on something before I make my recommendation really quick, and that is I empathize with Hawa. You see, people don't understand some of these things. Some people will say, oh, she can be too angry, she can be too like this. Sometimes when you are passionate about something, and something is burning in you, sometimes you get excited about it. So I do see where she comes from. And I want to say to her, on every day, I will say to her how much sympathy for your sister's death. And I'm very sorry for what happened to your sister. But let's come to the victims, the death of the 4 people in Liberia, the 4 auditors. I want to say to their family too as well, how much sympathy to them. And I'm sorry for what happened to them. Fast forward, how can we move forward? I think the very first step is to recognize where we went wrong. Because one of the things we like to do, we Liberians, is we like to look for results. We don't go back to where we made mistake or where we went wrong. I think we went wrong when on a crime scene, the citizens, some of them, I also think we went wrong with the police department, wherein they could not secure the scene. I also think we went wrong with the president when the president made an assertion. Whether people think that it was a joke or not, you don't speak on sensitive issues like this in public and make it look whether he was joking or he was being serious. You don't say, oh, the people were loving it. And so, no, you don't. Those are not things that you say. When we say some of these things, people think that we hate the president or we hate the government, but these are facts. You don't make these kind of statements until the people who are in authority come up to say certain things. So I think those are the places we went wrong. But on a bigger note, how can we move forward? I honestly think we can move forward by the president, as he stated, I read in the newspapers that he invited the Americans. I will hope and pray that maybe they can make available the letter or the communication, because you can't just invite people in your mouth. This is a diplomatic thing. We want to know if this is legit for some of us, because we want to save it on record too as well, to give him credit for doing that. That's one thing. So, but we want an independent investigator to go through this thing. The reason is it will clear out the government's side, and also it will clear out any other discrepancy that people are having too, any foul play, whether that's from the family side or from other places, and we'll know the fact. Independent investigator in this thing will clear the air, and it will seize everything. I think the government's move of trying to conduct an autopsy on these bodies while they are inviting people, it's not a good move. It's not realistic, and it should not be done. It's not prudent. So I want to advise them to hold on. The people that invited, let them come and collaboratively. Maybe they can work together to come up with a plan that will address this issue. That would be my suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Jai, and I'll keep on following.
Thank you. One more caller, and then we go back to our panelists. That's Dennis Coty. Dennis, go ahead. You're live.
Hello, Mr. Jai, and the rest of those who are on the panel. First, let me say thank you to Mr. Jai for the wonderful work that he's always doing. And then I will turn to my sister, Hawa. Hawa, I really sympathize with you. My condolences to you and the rest of the Rich family. I'm just going to go straight to the point. I think what we need to do as people, I see most Liberians, or one of the panelists said this during his conversation. He said that even both the educated ones and the uneducated ones, most of the time, we try to self-seek, and we don't really do what we're supposed to do to start things. What I think we need to do from here, justice is very important. Since these things have been going on and almost everybody in the country is crying for justice, justice is the most important thing. Let the justice system, let those who are close to the government stress on the government to make the justice system to work for all.
Thank you.
And I also agree with the panelists who call for decentralization. Let the executive give chances to other people to function by themselves. And this in itself is a part of justice. One of your panelists at one point,
we got a lot of callers here. So please be brief. We got a lot of callers.
Oh, I thought you said I was the last person.
So you take all the time.
Anyway, yeah. So anyway, one of your panelists once said this, that they need to really work on the Constitution again to put things in the proper place. Justice is very important. Those who are being killed, if there is no justice for them, this will continue to happen and people will ignore it. Justice is very important. They need to start, whether it is
Dennis.
John Brown who has what kind of title killed somebody, let that person face justice. This will be the only way.
Thank you. Mr. Zavlo, let me go to you. You heard the callers. What's your solution? How do we move forward?
What happened to your other panelists? He left or what?
Which panelist?
I don't see Mr. Russell on.
He's on.
Mr. Russell is there.
Okay, just making sure. I want him to be on. Look, let me begin by just dismissing some of these things that we are talking. Look, we want to focus this discussion on Liberia. And Hawaii, again, my hearts are with you. My heart is with you. I feel your pain. And that's one of the things that I do in Liberia, especially in Kakata, where I advocate for women and girls. And I do understand the issue about rape in Liberia is concerning. Before I talk about what needs to be done, I want to dismiss something that was said by Mr. Russell quickly. Mr. Russell claimed that there's no comparison between his city and Liberia. Perhaps yes, but let it be clear. He serves on the council of a failing city where young children, young families have to move their kids to other school districts around there because the city he represents on the council on which he sits cannot provide quality school for the children. Look, hold on one second.
Yeah, Mr. Zauri being personal.
Let me stop. I'm not being personal. We are discussing.
Let's talk about the issue in Liberia, please.
Look, there's an issue in Liberia, but he has consistently and persistently referred to the people in the government as incompetent.
You can address that.
He has a lot of experience in incompetence. I understand. He knows incompetence. He has seen a lot of it. He lived it. So let's establish that. But let me move on to the issue here. I think what needs to be done is to look at the macro issues, the bigger issues here that we have faced in our country. But for example, how our concerns about the number of rapes in Liberia. And the president has taken some specific and concrete steps towards addressing the issue of rape. But I think we need to go beyond that. One of the things I do in Liberia is to engage young people. I've opened 2 schools in Liberia. For what? What is the purpose of opening those schools in Liberia? Because what we need to do is to begin to raise the consciousness of our young people, to change their mindsets, to help them to grow and develop and function in a society where things like rape will be frowned upon from the very day the child is born to the time when he becomes a woman, he becomes a man. We have our society, the way our country was built and structured is one of the reasons why some of the things we see happening today are happening. So we need to go back to those places and begin to fix it. Secondly, I think one of the things we need to do to resolve these kind of things is begin to teach science in our schools in a better way so that people will understand that it's a science in everything, science in investigation. So the investigator must be given the chance to do the job instead of people running away with rumors and falsehoods and half-truths. All of those things can undermine the integrity of any investigation. Thirdly, I think we as Liberians must separate our politics from our advocacy. Those are two different things. Look, the reason why the narrative is being twisted to make it look like government is involved with all of these quote unquote murders is because we are on the eve of receiving an overwhelming mandate from the people of Liberia. And because people are afraid that mandate will be delivered on December 8th, they are trying to create a situation where you blame the ruling party for everything that's happening in the country. Look, President Weah will never, let me use the Liberian people common thing, he will never kill a fly. And he will never, ever be involved, not in the planning, not in the murder of any individual. And nobody associated with President Weah will ever put their hands or other people to go and execute or kill anybody on behalf of our government. That would never happen. So let's get all of those things, let's get those things clear. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jah, can I just add something to Mr. Zaulu Freely?
Hold on, let me bring in our international caller because they are attending their minutes too. So let me get your name and where you're calling from. I know you're calling from international. If that's not international, then we can skip you. Go ahead, caller. Where are you calling from? Yeah.
I'm calling you from Libya. The United Nations.
Libya?
Libya.
Turn your monitor off, though.
Turn your monitor off so we can hear you. All right, let me go to my next caller. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Washington. I'm calling from Chicago.
Go ahead. You have 60 seconds.
Okay, so I want to thank you so much for the discussion. I am a born Liberian, and I came to the U.S. during the midst of the war. What's happening right now in Liberia is simply a government failure. Liberia is a nation now with no security. And if the country has no high security to be put in place, all sort of crimes will start to take place. Right now, we are talking about death. But one thing that the panel is not talking about is also the amount of cocaine and drugs that are pouring into the country underneath the Nigerian dealers. And then we also have to talk to the security sector that is completely unequipped. And some of them go for months with no pay. And what do you think is going to happen when drug dealer with a lot of money comes in? And they will start to work for these drug dealers. And the last time I saw a police commander who was a drugs enforcer, now in rehab, because she was addicted to cocaine. And through the video interview, she said that many of the Liberian police, as most of them are selling drugs on behalf of protecting the Nigerian drug dealer, all the way down to the Supreme Court. And I feel like Joshua has lost complete control over the country. The security sector is in a deplorable state. The police have no equipment. They are overrun by a bunch of thugs who are attacking leaders, one of which was Yeku Koloba. His house was ransacked. People have been attacked in Grand Jide. I mean, the list go on and on. Right. So this is Joshua administration. This is Joshua government. It is time that he take charge and help call the Americans, the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf date, to train more police officers, more law enforcers, and put them into the country and bring the carnage down. Otherwise, this is going to get worse. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Washington. Let me take this caller from Liberia. James Momo, go ahead.
Yeah, I've been listening to your panelists, and it's very unfortunate that Mr. Zawolo will be sitting on this platform defending a government that seems to be failing the people. It's unfortunate. I don't know whether he lives in the United States or Liberia. It's very unfortunate. Because I heard you saying that he's a professor in the States. I don't know whether Mr. Zawolo knows what they call a failed state. That's what Liberia is. You have a government that's not accountable to the people. Corruption is everywhere. And you're sitting here trying to defend George Weah and CDC government. It's very unfortunate. And this is why our country continues to be why it is. We are not coming out to say what is true. You cannot. It's just unfortunate. I don't even know how to express it. It's very unfortunate.
Thank you.
Very, very unfortunate.
Thank you. Let me go back to the caller from Libya. Call your name and where you calling from again. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Botte. My name is Botte Williams. I'm calling you from Benghazi, Libya, with the United Nations.
Benghazi, Libya. Welcome, Botte. Your comments.
I want to thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank you so much and to thank the panel members, but especially I want to say thanks to Mr. Zagulo. Is that the correct name? Zagulo?
Yes.
Or Zagulo?
Yeah.
I want to commend him very highly because he spoke very well. I wish we Liberians could have the type of him, like 50 more of him in the United States to be able to help Liberians because he spoke very well. What I noticed about most of the panels that I normally air is that people have, especially, let me just say, majority of our colleagues or our brothers and sisters in America seems to have this hate, and I don't know where it's coming from. There seems to be some sort of hate. People speak like they have some sort of hate. The problems in Liberia, we all know our own problems. We know our problems, and we need to figure it out, get together, have this unity among ourselves so that we put our differences behind us and solve the problems of Liberia. Criticizing negatively will not help us get anywhere. Now, the issue with this murder, the cases that Liberians keep talking about, in the police, when you do police science, you don't find people guilty until you finish your investigation.
Yeah.
You must finish your investigation to find out who is actually responsible. But I can see people started concluding, accusing the president or his government of this. Where are the facts? We don't have it. We should be careful how we speak.
Thank you, Mr.
Let's
Botte.
stop this hate. Let's come together. Yes, my last point, and very important. I worked for the Liberia National Police for 14 unbroken years before I left Liberia to join it. I worked with almost all of the director of police, starting from Fopa, Chris Farley. Then I went to Joe Tate. I also worked with Brani Samuka.
Just wrap up, Botte. We need to end the broadcast.
Yes, the problem, one of the biggest problems we have right now, the mistake that was made is that the police force, the Liberia National Police, the restructuring that was done in the police force created a lot of problems. It created a lot of problems, though it was carried out by the United Nations, but it created a lot of problems. We need to revisit that restructuring and make sure our professionals are brought back into the system. What we have right now is not a good arrangement, and that's where one of our problems is. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Muted. Unmuted.
Let me go to Howard for solutions. How do we move forward?
Yes, how do we move forward? Let me just say, I did not come on this platform today to get recognition or pity party for anybody or to impress anyone. I came here today to state the case that there is a questionable murder that has happened with 4 senior auditors, professionals of Liberia. And if anybody want to think that is something that is not disturbing to the global community, you are sick and you have a problem. I could sat on this platform today and be proud as a Liberian. It already brought you a solution if my sister had justice. If Odell Sherman case was not considered and ruled out accidental, even though we had a renowned pathologist on her case, I would have came today and gave you a solution. If Prince Carby, a normal young Liberian man, even had an investigation in his case, I would have came today and give you more solutions. If 1,000 rape cases have been solved on the docket and even been touched, I would have had a solution for you. But what solution do you want me to get? The solution starts now. It starts now with Abra Gifty and Mr. Fatoma and Niswa. That's the solution. Prove us wrong that you have a structural system in Liberia that when something happens to a citizen of a nation, we can get results. Give us that solution. You shouldn't be asking me for solution. You should be asking the people who have been planning for 12 years from a past failed regime, and they have been planning, and they should have had strategic implementations in their time now to give a solution. You shouldn't be asking me for solution. I have given solutions. Every time I speak on a rape case, I pay for the medical care of children in Liberia when they get raped and violated. I sponsor children in Liberia to protect them in safe homes. I'm doing my part as a Liberian. When do we come forth and hold the leaders accountable? And you're talking about, and Liberia is the only country when somebody come up and a confident woman like me and a woman that is very empowered, when I come and speak, I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm rude. It comes like that. Liberia is the only country. I go to my city town hall here in my state. When I ask my lawmakers in the state of Colorado and I ask them questions and I hold them accountable, I'm not considered rules. Liberia is the only country where you ask for justice and accountability. People see you as such, because you know what? It's not our norm. We are used to bad practices. We are used to being selective in justice. We are used to being situational. Because it doesn't happen to me, that means it happened to nobody. The solution starts now with Albert, Gifty, Mr. Fatoma, and Mr. Niswa. That should be the solution. We should have a structural thing that even anybody that leaves and comes into a new power, there will be structure. That's the solution. People can die and then people say, oh, the person died and just go away. Don't ask me for a solution. I'm a victim sister. Where is my sister's solution? Where is Yata Kamara, the young girl who got murdered in Palm Springs Hotel, that nobody knows what happened to her? And Liberia's called for a prostitute. Where is her solution? The solution does not come from me. The solution comes from leadership. And leadership must execute that for our people. Our people trusted people to serve them. You know, it's a big thing, Mr. Jai, when somebody trusts your ability and say, I trust you to government. I trust you to oversee me. I trust you to serve me well. They should be delivered.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Winfred Russell. How do we move forward?
So,
specifically, Mr. Russell, this thing has happened. What, as Liberians in the diaspora, the government of Liberia, what do we do?
I mean, this is a good step for all of us coming together and amicably talking about the issues that are be facing the country and how we can find solutions to move forward. So this is great. But as you well know, and that the situation in Liberia is very complicated and is very complex. And how we find solutions to these problems will take an enormous effort, but encouraged by the people who are running the country now, and it doesn't seem to be the case. However, I mean, Hawaii has spoken so eloquently on the issue, and I'd just like to buttress a part of what she said in response to some of the questions that have been coming through. So when you ask about solution and you tell us and you invite us to come on these platforms, and we are, we're sharing our thoughts based on our experience, informed by some of the things that we're doing. And then people would just characterize that as, oh, hatred for the government, or you dislike the government, because, Hawa and I've experienced this. I think we all experienced it. We just have to keep moving forward, because all they're trying to do is silence the debate. All they're trying to do is silence the conversation, because they have no real solution. So they come out and try to. So we just need to be composed and keep moving forward. I have 4 email accounts. I receive messages every day from my constituents. I traveled to Portland, Oregon on a conference. People wanted to know how much money I spent there, how much my dinner was costing. They called my city council to get the invoice for my trip. That's not going to make me mad and say, oh, people jealous, but that's how to hold us accountable as elected officials, and that's one of the things that we have not gotten used to. We know these things. That's what we need to do to turn the corner and turn things around. But we try to dismiss it. We try to judge people or push it aside by calling you all these names. That, oh, you hit the government. I don't hit anybody. So part of the solution is that how we and Brother Francis Hina spoke about it too, also very eloquently. Governance. So what happened to the governance commission with Emerson and all of those folks who were running this governance commission? What happened to that? Because part of it was supposed to come up with a decentralized mandate that we can, or decentralized framework that we can follow. So part of the problem is that we need to have, and elect leaders and hold leaders accountable. And how do we discourage impunity? And how do we have a governance structure where people are held accountable? So, Mr. Jha, this stuff is very complex. It's very complicated. And people don't want to be held accountable, so they come around and say all kinds of stuff and call you names. But all we're saying, and all I'm saying, is that we need to do right by our people.
Thank you.
We need to improve the lives of our people. The way we do right by our people and improve the lives of our people is by holding our elected leaders and appointed leaders accountable. And one of the ways we hold them accountable is by having these conversations that we're having here today.
Right. Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Hina.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Jha. I was following the discussion, and when my brother Zawulu was discussing this issue, three things I've noted here that need to be addressed and find a solution to the issue.
Is that your solution? Would that be your solution?
Well, there'll be issues that I'm putting forward that if it's addressed, I'm sure that we can move forward in finding solutions to the political dilemma we're having in Liberia. First thing, how do leaders, responsible leaders, handle issue when it arises under their leaders, under their watch? If you're a leader, there is an issue. There's a way you handle that issue, that you develop your people that you're leading, develop confidence into it. We have one right now with us, even right now on the world stage. Let's take my next door neighbor, your country. How is the leadership addressing the issue of coronavirus? What is the approach? The whole world is looking at it and know that he paid less attention. He's not listening to the science. That's a failed leadership. Now, if the president of Liberia will hear about a mass murder of people in his government, and he downplayed and go in the public and stand and say they were killed because of boyfriend and girlfriend business, if he asks me personally, I will tell you that being irresponsible. When you are a leader, sometimes you know the truth, but the way to deliver the truth to your people, it has to be responsible. You have to deliver in a very responsible way. The next thing I heard is that the president or the government is asking USAID to help with the investigation. Who is USAID? USAID is the United States International Assistance for International Development, Agency for International Development. Now, what is their capacity? USAID is nothing more than the people taking video and throwing it to you. What is the political weight? If you want real people to help you, it's not USAID you're going to. And how was that done? Was it an official communication that probably USAID could forward to someone else to do something? I don't know. But I'm saying that these are steps that people need to take when it comes to finding solution to the problem like this. And the thing is, it's been consistent. Now, what I know or what I've seen and heard in the news is that everyone associated with investment of funds in Liberia will disappear. Let Mr. Zawulu prove me wrong. Ines will be killed from his car, which I don't know. We can't get the account of that. 2 people are found in the back of the car. They are dead.
Yeah.
And they said their boyfriend and girlfriend. Is that me who killed them?
Mr. Hina, what do we do?
Charlie, that's our energy. Charlie, when the process of investigation is flawed in any given thing, even in your house, between your children, no one will take it serious and no one will have respect for it. So the process should be transparent. The first thing is it should be taken high. Government should prioritize it so that people watching the investigation as it go by, they will have confidence in the process. Now, the behavior even of our security forces, For those of you who've been traveling in and out of Liberia, you will tell me when you arrive at the airport, as long as you have money holding your hand, you're going to bulldoze your way through. Just be dropping the $5, $10 bill. It shouldn't be even the US one. When you're dropping the $40, they don't care what you got in the bag you're carrying. I heard a brother talk about cocaine and other things. This is all the result of a failed state. A failed state. Liberia is a failed state. So unless we can resurrect that country back to its original standing, will be nothing. And if you do history, you will cry for yourself. We are the oldest independent republic on the west coast of Africa. The first or the second black republic in the whole world. The first was Haiti. Haiti was 1820, Liberia 1847. After that, what? We are zero. I remember the days when Ghanaians used to carry sugar and flour from Monrovia. Today, we are bringing sugar and flour from there. The solution is for us to build our institutions. We have to be selfless if we lead people. That's what the council mayor was saying. When we ask for accountability, we should provide that accountability and not be angry. You ask the president, you traveled yesterday. So how much money did you spend? What change you brought? I don't know whether you leave to see the next day. So this is what we should do. The solution should be a responsible government. And for what we see, this government is irresponsible.
Thank you. On that note, I want to say thank you so much for your time. It's been a very lively discussion, Murders in Monrovia Roundtable. So we want to thank all our viewers. Sorry, we were not able to complete the callers list. Too many callers. We were not even able to read all our comments. Too many comments. But it was that's what we want, a healthy debate. So to close, just 30 seconds each. I just want to get your closing remarks. 30 seconds. Let's start. We started with Gakon. Let's start with Councilman Rosso this time. 30 seconds. Your closing remarks.
Again, thanks to you, Dennis, and to all the panelists. Great being here. Our country is at a crossroad. We are having some serious problems now that need to be addressed. This government is an existential threat to the survival of Liberia as we know it. We need to take it seriously. We need to hold our leaders accountable and should not be afraid to hold them accountable and to ensure that we are living in peace and security.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if you are watching us, this is Focus on Liberia. We have our website there pinned on the show. Please click on that website. And if you feel that you want us to continue, somebody call us the LPR of Liberia. So the NPR, the National Public Radio. So we want to do more of these kind of programs to bring awareness, education to the people. And if you feel that we're doing a good job and it worth your time, please donate. Hit that donate button on our and donate something to us so that we can keep this moving. Let me get your last your 30 seconds, Mr. Zaulo, for your conclusion. 30 seconds.
Good. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Jad. You never disappoint me, and I appreciate every opportunity to come on your show. Let me commend my fellow panelists here today for the very spirited discussions we've had. My heart goes off again to Hawa for the loss of her sister, and I will definitely find the time to speak with you personally to see how I can support your work in the advocacy for women and girls in Liberia. Mr. Jad, we all come from, we are Liberians, except for some of the other people who have already taken American citizenship and working in
stop it.
Working in the government, and they want to have their cake.
30 seconds was so
They still want to have their cake and eat it both ways. For me, I carry the Liberian flag everywhere I go. I'm proud of my Liberian citizenship. And so when I speak because I know I will be buried in our country. I speak because I believe in the people in our country. I'm proud to be a Liberian. Liberia is now, and there's no government that's an existential threat to Liberia. This government is surpassing the expectations. This government has put back hundreds of dollars back into the pockets of ordinary Liberians on a monthly basis, too many of its very innovative initiatives. I named the social safety net program. I look at the free tertiary education program. We are now working on making sure that from primary to high school is also free.
Thank you.
So let me finish, Dennis. Yeah.
30
So
seconds.
This government has made tremendous progress for anyone to come and make those claims to the government. Mind you, we don't have hungry people sleeping in our streets, where we have millionaires living in our cities. We don't have failing schools as much as concentrated as we have in some of the places where people are city council members.
30 seconds, Mr.
We don't have
Zauro.
police involved in brutality in Liberia, as we see it in some of the places that others have, who are councilmen are proud to identify with. Our country have our own challenges, and we are getting on it. This government is committed to changing it, and we'll succeed. Our people will be proud. Come December 8th, we are going to receive an overwhelming mandate from the people.
Mr. Zauro,
we're going up for seats. All 15 seats, we're going to win them, and we're going to continue our agenda to move our country forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Jab.
Thank you. Your 30 seconds, Mr. Moore. Please don't Zauro me now. Just 30 seconds.
That was a very powerful. I hope that don't happen. You win off 15 seat. Liberia trouble.
You got 30 seconds. Leave Zauro alone.
But thank you, Mr. Jai. Thank you, Focus on Liberia. I'm honored to be one of your panelists tonight. Yes, it is true that our country, there are many challenges in our country. We all need to recognize that government agencies need to raise money. Every government agency in Liberia need to be a money raiser for the government. With the lack of funding, the government cannot execute a lot of what we envision or what we want to see Liberia to become. So I think it is wise for us to see how we can make these recommendations to the Liberian government. If they're willing to listen, they can listen to some of our feedback and see how they can start putting things in the right places. I think the issue of security is one of my major concerns in Liberia. The issue of security, whether it's first responder, fire, safety, all those things in Liberia need to be put in place in order for Liberians from the diaspora living in Liberia to feel safe. So George Weah and his government need to focus on security. And I think this issue of mysterious death in Liberia, we may likely maybe get some results.
Thank you. Mr. Hina, 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Jha, and thank you to my fellow panelists today. It's always a pleasure to meet all of us to discuss ideas, and I think in a healthy society or healthy democracy, that's what we need to do. I think it behooves us, if you call us here today to ask us, we Liberians in the diaspora, we need to bring some of these tragedy to the attention of the international community. We should be writing the MSA International, the United Nations, and other people just to intervene and make sure, because I heard someone mention about hearing report or reading report about them. Yes, they read the report about them, like Sister Hawa said, they read the report about them, but no one had made a formal complaint to the United Nations. We should take an issue with the embassy here in Liberia, in the United States, address our issue to the ambassador if we are really concerned, and let the government speak to us. We are Liberian, and no Liberian is more Liberian than the other. I'm a Liberian. I have a Canadian citizenship. That's right. But I'm a Liberian. In fact, in Canada, I'm allowed to be a dual citizen. If Liberia don't allow it, that will be fine. But I think I was born in Liberia. My neighbors are in Liberia. So I call on us not just to sit on this forum to discuss something, but we should go further than this by asking the international community to find their resources, at least help us to give us the in-depth of what happened in Liberia. Because otherwise, professional people like us will be afraid to go to Liberia. You go there today, you want to address the issue like these auditors did, they will find your body in the car. Or they will find your body, your hair to be chopped off. If the government does not take a punitive action to make sure that these issues are addressed properly. And I agree with Mr. Zauro, yes, you support the government, that's fine. But we are saying we don't know. And you can't tell us really what happened. So then let's find a solution. Let's find the answer to what happened. It's what we are concerned about. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hina. Ms. Mesga. 30 seconds, your last words.
30 seconds, I gotta do it real quick. I want to thank you, Mr. Jai, for your professionalism, and I thank you for trusting me to invite me to this platform, to this forum. I want to thank all the gentlemen on here, everybody deliberated and give their truth and give their convictions as well. Before I close, before I end my 30 seconds, I want to quote the Office of the UN High Commission for Human Rights country that is representing Liberia. Dr. Uchenna Emulenyi. I hope I'm saying his name right. He told a National Justice Conference on Monrovia on November 29, 2018, that a post-war society that does not promote justice and accountability does not properly heal without scars. As an executive of the Liberian United for Justice and Accountability, LUJA, I support the establishment of the War Economic Crime Court in Liberia. Only justice can make us a stable society. Only justice can make us a beauty to the world. Only justice can bring structure to a nation. I am in support of the establishment of the War Economic Crime Court in Liberia because it will bring so many closure. That repeated behaviors don't continue to happen in a society, that we keep saying we are civilized, but we don't exhibit civilization among us. We need justice in Liberia. On behalf of my victims, Albert, Gifty, Ninswa, and all our victims of Liberia, the 250,000 Liberians that have died without no justice that we are proceeding, I wore this t-shirt in honor of them. That if there's no justice in Liberia, there will be no peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can't thank you enough for the time. I think this is just the beginning. Let us leave this platform now and think about what we can do in our communities, because what we heard about the death and that continuing to happen in Monrovia, that scared me, that scared and concerned all of us. So let us look at the best within us. I know there are comments, people are castigating others this way or that way based on their views, but we can go beyond that and solve this problem, because today is we have Gifty, we have Jensua. Tomorrow it could be me, it could be anybody or someone very close to us. We don't want that to happen, because Liberia is the only country we have. No matter how many citizenship we take across the globe, Liberia will be the only country where we cannot be deported from. That's our country. That's where our neighbors friends were buried, and that's where we're going to be. And that's where we're going to die. Provided now that you have your will, that when you die, we'll take you back. If you don't have will, we'll cremate you and put you somewhere. I heard somebody saying they will be buried in Liberia. So thank you, gentlemen. I want to thank our callers. I want to thank all of you who took part. Continue to follow us on Facebook. This video will be on YouTube. Continue to follow that and share it. And let us do our best so that Liberia will be that glorious land of liberty that we all dream of. Again, before we leave, we're going to play that song, We Are All Liberians. And let us do everything within our power, humanly possible. Whether you are a government person or opposition, whoever you are, we are all Liberians, and Liberia is our home. Good night, and God bless you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Liberia is our home.